Hey everyone, thank you for joining us today. You have stepped into another Careers Insight episode. My name is Derek Calvert. I am the program manager with the Montana Educational Talent Search, and super excited for today's episode. As you may know, for the month of December, we've been focusing on architecture and construction careers. So today we have some special guests who are going to speak exactly to that. So we're joined by Susan and Dean Bjerke. Susan and Dean, would you mind introducing yourselves here?
Sure. I'm Susan Bjerke. I'm the owner of Bjerke Architects. That's a two-person architectural firm here in Helena. We've been working in Helena for about 35 years, done a number of real fun projects through the years. We did the Alpine Animal Clinic. We've done the Montana Book Company years and years ago, the recent on-Broadway remodeling, and what else? The Holter Museum edition years ago. So been here in Helena for most of my life. I grew up here, went to Helena High, and then went on to Montana State University in architecture.
Awesome.
So this is Dean Bjerke. I have diamond construction. At this point in time, I started my childhood on a little farm in South Dakota, and my exposure to straight nails wasn't until way late in my life, because I straightened nails for my dad on the farm. Nothing was ever thrown away. So it was a great beginning to see what the future held for me. I went to school here at Helena High. I went to Montana State University and got a master's degree in industrial engineering. I was in the Navy for 35 years as a reservist and 3 years active in Athens, Greece. I love my profession, and we've done some awesome things. Montana Hospital Association building out on the east side of town. We've done several multifamily remodels here in town, new structures, housing, and also some really awesome projects together with my wife, including the remodel on the front of our existing building at 2905 North Montana. Also am involved in Silver City Cabinets, stone and tile that fabricates stone countertops, makes custom cabinets, and does all of that. And it has grown over the years from a few $100,000 in volume to over 20 million in volume for our organization.
Wow. Yeah, I love the little tidbit about growing up with having to straighten some nails. That was good. That was good. Well, I'm so glad for you both to be able to join us. I can't wait, honestly, to hear everything, hear your experience, hear your knowledge, and especially for our students and anybody else listening to this, whether you're watching this live or watching the replay of this. I'm excited for everyone here. If you do have comments with questions or just little tidbits, if you want to like the stream, share it, please do. And I guess with that, we'll just jump into it. So, Susan, so glad for you to join us. For you, what does a typical day look like?
Well, that's a loaded question. Typical day, we're working on projects almost all the time, and there's only 2 architects here in the office at this time. We have grown and shrunk at various times. Right now there's 2 of us, and we're both working on different projects. Typically there's a lot of communication that happens both with the client and with any engineers that you have on your team. Each project has a certain amount of steps that happen. At the very beginning of a project, we're talking a lot with the client. We're getting an idea of what it is that they want to build. Where is it going to be? They own a lot. They have some ideas of what they want, either a residence or a commercial building, a restaurant. I mean, there's all sorts of ideas and projects that come in the door. So our first steps on a project would be meeting with the client, discussing all of those variables that go with the project. Once the project has been, we've got the notification to move forward, then we'll be in the design process, and we have a project now in design where we're working on square footages, we're working on construction type. What do we want to build this out of? Is it a masonry building? Is it a steel building? Trying to be respectful of what's happening in the markets right now. Once we have all of those questions, I guess, gelled, we have a team of engineers that we work with. We have a mechanical engineer that would design all of the heating and cooling systems, all the plumbing systems, electrical engineer that does the lighting and all of the power, structural engineer that we would work very closely with to determine the structural system, civil engineer that would be working on the site elements. So there's a large team that goes into the design of any of these buildings that you see going up around town. We also, when we work in the city limits and elsewhere, I guess, but working in the city limits, we deal with the city of Helena, the building department. Buildings that we build are required to comply with the building code, so we'll have correspondence with the building department. We'll do our own internal code review. All of that, we're responsible for all of that. So there's a lot of communication, a lot of collaboration, and a lot of coordination. Once the permit, we apply for a building permit and we go back through that building code elements again. So sometimes we'll be meeting with the city, we'll be talking about parking, we'll be talking about building height, that type of thing. And then once the construction starts, we have a project right now under construction with Diamond Construction. It's a rest area down by Three Forks. And our team then is making various site visits down there. We have our structural engineer go down and take a look at the rebar and the footings. I'll be down when we start doing the masonry work. So a typical day can be anywhere along that spectrum. Quite often we're, we can be sketching, we can be drawing. Everything that we do internally is in Revit software, which is a 3D software. And that ultimately becomes the working drawings that go to the contractor. So we'll have time spent in that category of work as well. Does that answer your question?
Yes. What you're saying is you don't just sit at a desk and draw and then it just magically becomes a project finished. There's a lot more to it.
Yeah, there's a lot of moving parts, and in all of that, you really have to be a good listener. You have to be able to communicate very well with your clients and with the building team that's going to put your project together.
And so did you know this when you were going into it? At the end of the day, what really helped you go into this field? Was it because it's I want to draw, at the end of the day, what helped you do that?
Well, I started being very interested in this career when I was in high school at Helena High. We had just an extraordinary drafting teacher there. I think he's retired. A little shout out to Mr. Lee Holmes. He really was an excellent drafting teacher, and I just felt like I had come home when I went into that classroom. We were drawing everything by hand back in those days, and that whole concept of orthographic projection where you draw a plan and then you draw all of the sides, and you really get this idea that you're drawing something that's three-dimensional, and you have to be able to visualize that. And now, of course, we're drawing in 3D with our computers, so it's really interesting how our profession has evolved. But Mr. Holmes, I still can't call him just Lee. Anyway, Mr. Holmes helped me get a job at a local architect here, Compo and Crennan. They've since retired and passed away, but it was a fabulous, eye-opening job. So I had an idea of what it would take to be in an architect's office all the time, because I watched them meeting with clients. I watched them meeting with other engineers, and there wasn't a part of it that really I found that I don't think I'd want to do. It was just it was eye-opening. Of course, it was back in the day when there was a lot of manual work to be done. I was running prints. They'd let me do some lettering sometimes on plans. And I'd go on job sites. If you're doing a lot of remodelings, you're going on a job site and you are measuring and drawing what's there to begin with. So it was a combination of my high school teacher and this eye-opening job at Compo and Crennan that really made me think, I think I could do this. I could do this for a living. I could do it every day.
That's awesome. And I imagine that there's many people that that could really even be the same case for, whether it's a high school drafting class or I was actually thinking about this a little bit earlier, how my drafting class, I really enjoyed it in high school, but I didn't necessarily have the mindset of like, wow, could I continue doing this? I was more just doing it for a grade, not so I really encourage anybody, if you're taking a drafting class, whatever it might be, any class, for any subject, really think to yourself, are you passionate about this? Could you keep doing this? Or is it something that you're just like, I'm going to get through this class and that's going to be it? So I appreciate you sharing that experience, Susan. To switch gears, Dean, what does your day usually look like on an average day?
I'll start talking about a little bit about what my day looks like when I first started out and tie it in with why I chose this profession and why I'm here. And so it'll be a combined story, I guess, for the two questions you had Sue answer. My dad was a carpenter, and when I first started as a junior, my summer year after I got through my junior class, I was basically a gopher for my dad and his boss, working on residentials, and I was able to pound nails. In those days, we didn't have the automatic guns or any of the stuff that we have nowadays. But I loved working physically. I enjoyed it. I did whatever I was told, but I just was thrilled at the end of the day. You could look up and see what you accomplished. If you're framing walls, if you're hanging sheetrock, if all of those steps that they can get the house built for somebody else. And it was magnificent when you got to the end point where some client was actually moving in and you got to see the finished product. I think that part of our profession has stuck with me forever and ever. It's just, I don't know that there's too many things that you can accomplish that has that physical presence and aurora and a sense of accomplishment. So when I was doing that in the summers all the way through college also, I was able to gain a lot of different experiences with different phases of construction. And I actually, my last, I guess it was when I was going for my master's degree that summer before I went active duty in the Navy, I was a fix-it or a repairman or a handyman that I put my ad in the paper and went out and did handyman work on my own. Well, I didn't get paid for one job because I kind of overstepped what I knew at the time on a door. And that was okay, but it was a learning experience and something that I learned a lot, and I learned a lot about myself too. Sometimes I thought I was smarter and better than what I really was. So it was like a humbling experience. And I think that's important in life, to always challenge yourself, but also understand and be humble about what you're doing. So I was activated in the Navy and went active service to Athens, Greece for 2 years. I came back to the States, and went through the yards in Philadelphia with the ship in a ship repair type status. And I watched all the yard birds there, and the yard workers, we called them birds, work on the ship. And I was never impressed with the productivity they accomplished as we were walking around the ship. So I thought, if these guys can do this and make money at it, there's got to be a way I could make money in construction and have a crew that really does work. It was just one of those things that kind of enlightened me from life, but it also, I guess when I was in the Navy, it was one of those things that I could have been a Montana homeboy for sure, but it was a awesome experience, and it changed my life forever. Something about international travel, culture, different people, being able to understand that we're all unique in some ways, but I tell you what, people around the world value pretty close to the same things we do as Americans, and we need to be humble about that. So I got through with college and the Navy, and I had an opportunity to go back to school get a doctorate in industrial engineering and environmental science. And I chose, I'm walking the halls and I'm going, nah, I got to make some money. At that time, we were planning some family planning, and we knew we were going to take and have a child. So then I also put in for a job with Conoco down in Houston, Texas, and I got selected to take and get the job as an industrial engineer. And I looked at that opportunity, and it would have been an awesome opportunity, but I just had left a large organization with a large bureaucratic process that I wasn't real excited about. And I had an opportunity to start working for another organization. It was a family-owned one with my wife, the wife at that time. Her father owned a business, and so I went to work for 9 years for him. And it was the best mentoring I could ever have asked for, because I was hell on wheels and all about money. And he was really good about talking about relationships and what's really important in your business life. And just kind of share a story about it. There was one of the guys that was an older guy that had been working with him for 40 years. And he was a little slow for my standards as a 26-year-old go-get-it type situation. And so I approached my boss, the man that owned the company, and started talking about, I need to talk to this guy. And he really let me know that he'd spent a lot of years for the organization. He deserved a lot of respect, and he had a huge amount of knowledge. And all that stuff set me back on my heels about starting the process. It took a long time to get where I am today, but it was all about relationships and people and how they get there and what that means to your organization. And I would hope that anybody that goes to work for an organization demands that out of the people that you work for. It's like we all spend a lot of time at work. Anyway, I spent 9 years there. I decided to start my own business. I had married Susan, who was an architect, and I figured I hit gold when I married her. And now we could work on projects together. And we worked out of our house. A typical day was I was the estimator at 9 at night, from probably about 5 or 6 at night even after the kids are in bed, until midnight or whatever, trying to get work and get people out on it. Started out with a crew that consisted of me, my dad, and one of my brothers. And sometimes my mom and my wife would help us paint or do whatever on small projects. So it was a family, pretty tight-knit group. And we had one other employee at that point in time, who, by the way, is still working for me now after 36 years in business, but he worked even before that with my brother. So, and I just, I guess that whole experience of growth and mentoring and being able to recognize the fact of what we could accomplish has blessed me and our whole team with the opportunity to do great projects for clients. I I get the biggest thrill out of client satisfaction about the growth that I see in our teammates, and some of them in some cases go well above whatever they dreamed they could accomplish themselves. And all of those things are part of the reason I guess I'm in this profession and as an owner for an organization. I just love what I do, and there's never a boring moment. I sometimes wish I could find a boring moment, but that's okay. It would probably only last a few seconds before it drive me nuts. So that's kind of why I'm here. I love construction, and I love the fact that we've gotten in another business with the stone countertop tile and cabinetries over there, that in another shop and attached building that we have down here. We do outstanding work for our clients, and I think that's what it's all about, trying to make sure we keep those relationships in line. And when Sue talks about working with various engineers and teams, when we build a building or we do any project of any consequence, it's not about just our team. It's also about all of the teams involved, everywhere from the designers, the architects, the engineers, the client itself, themselves, and what we accomplish. There's a lot of stuff that goes into doing what construction consists of. And there's lots of different phases to expertise that can be used and developed.
So
we also built 4 houses for 4 out of 5 daughters, and that was all weekends and in the evening hours. So it's like, and that's also a big. My daughters have been able to take and knock the socks off Susan's friends when she visits the sites, because they're operating power tools and doing everything. So any women in the audience right now, I tell you what, you can do it all. And I've seen my own daughters outperform fellow workers and teammates, and I know dang well that there's abilities and skill levels that every female has just as good as any male. So go for it.
I completely agree. So Dean, what I got from your story is that there was, obviously you've been through a lot. You liked working physically. You saw how you would want something done, how you'd want a team led, how you'd want something built, and then what I also heard is construction. The business of construction is not just about swinging a hammer and working with a saw, or something like that. There's a whole lot more to it. It even sounded like there's even a degree of just maturity that needs to be able to come with it in order to succeed in the field.
Yeah, you're right. It takes, I think that our school systems sometimes lack in areas of financial responsibility, whether it's personal budgeting or finance type capabilities, even at a college level. And I think that if anybody is interested in advancing themselves in those areas, I know there's adult courses that allows you to do that. We have one guy here right now that has a small amount of college, and he's the president of this organization, Diamond Construction. And he's worked his way up with great, we call it emotional intelligence, but great people skills and great insight to people, and also a vast knowledge of how to put buildings together and how to take and work with clients. I'm convinced that life is more about relationships than anything else. The money is secondary, and if you can build the relationships and the quality and keep those focused on there as a team, all the money comes with what you accomplish for your clients.
I like that a lot. Well, thank you, Dean. We did have a question from Jeannie for, it looks like, Susan. So Jeannie says, how easy is it to get into architecture in Montana for students who are interested in pursuing this field?
The only school of architecture in Montana is at Montana State. I do believe there is an application process. I'm not sure if they take all freshmen, but certainly I think at the second year you have to apply and be accepted. I think Montana students are exceptional. Most Montana students have a fabulous work ethic, and if you have some drawing and drafting skills going in, I think that's very important. But I think Montana State is a fabulous school of architecture, and I would highly encourage even just a tour down there, walk through and see what you think of it. It's a very supportive environment, and they really want you to succeed. So I think it's pretty straightforward to get in.
You can come down and shadow Susan. She'll show you a little bit about what she does.
Yes, I'd be more than happy for you to come in and visit.
And honestly, I think the more that students really shadow and look into it, the more that they'll be able to figure out if that's the career. The more passionate they can be about it, the more hardworking, and in that regards, be able to find a career. And I think as well as what Jeannie might be alluding to is like, how is the career outlook for architecture in Montana?
Well, right now, offices are searching for architectural grads. There's a boom right now in construction, and I think there's a really good market for architecture. I sort of forged my own way. When I came out of school, I worked for the state for 6 years and then went out on my own. And I've never really had the experience of working for a large firm for an extended time. I did a small internship, a 6-month internship out in Portland while I was in school for a large firm. I kind of got pigeonholed drawing hotel bathrooms. And I knew I really wanted more of a hands-on career. So coming back to Helena, where I grew up, it was wonderful. I just started with small projects and it just kind of grew. So I think the outlook is wonderful. We have some very top-notch firms here in Helena and certainly around the state that are, they're always looking for new talent and that energy that goes with new ideas.
Yeah, and I'll put a pitch in for the fact that there's a lot of flexibility for architects, even in general construction. I mean, we have offered jobs to people as PMs, project managers, estimators. There's all of these other areas, skill areas that architectural training or architects in general have a vast knowledge of and is easily adaptable to lots of different areas, whether it involves facility maintenance, managing maintenance departments in large buildings, in large cities or whatever. I mean, there's just a lot of possibilities.
Yep.
That's great. Yeah, and I think that's super insightful for me to be able to hear as well, so I can share with more students. So I know we have a couple more questions, and Susan, so another question for you. How, I guess, what is your favorite part of the job, and what is the most challenging part of the job for you?
My favorite part of the job has to be the clients. In these 35 years, we have worked with some of the most amazing people. And, I love the finished product. I love that we build a building and that's the finished product. But more important to me is the relationship with that owner that is built during that process. We have a very high number of repeat clients, and when they need an architect, they come back to us, and I love that about this profession. And being able to see work that we've done, that's high on the list, but by far my favorite is the people, our wonderful clients. The hardest part, we grew a couple of years ago to where we had 4 people here, and that was hard for me. The whole HR and managing people instead of being the architect. That part was hard for me because it made me step further away from the clients and more of a manager, and double checking work and checking work and making sure everybody had work. That was stressful. I think if I'd had training in a larger office where I could see how that worked, would have been helpful. As coming in and just opening my own business and kind of following my heart, that was very gratifying to me, and certainly it has fed my soul all these years. But having a little experience on how exactly a large firm does that would have served me well. It's a good small business, but it's also an excellent big business that I didn't really have exposure to.
I think that's great to recognize as well. I mean, that's difficult because it's another side of the job, more of a managing side. When you're actually running your own company. Yeah, I could definitely see that how it could be difficult. And Dean, coming back to you as well, what would you say is the best part of the job for you? And at the same time, what is the most challenging part?
I guess similar to Susan, the fact that building the structure, watching it go up, being able to problem solve different things that develop, whether it involves a whole team with the engineers and architects, design, and something that isn't real clear on the prints. I think that team performance is probably next and equally as important to have that success. But the big one is just looking back at the building and seeing what's there. And then between the clients and your own employees or the teammates that you have, I guess I feel like to have somebody in your firm or on your team that excels way above what they had anticipated they could accomplish themselves, or you can mentor that goodness and what they accomplished, it's like that's the best ever. And I think that all of us as humans experience those feelings at times. I think you have to have a feeling of abundance where there's plenty of work for everybody. I know we get uptight when we lose a bid, but I tell you what, I have a lot of respect for a lot of the firms in town that we compete against. And I think that's the way we need to approach our life and also our existence here in this small community. Mm-hmm. The challenges, the biggest one has been we have about 80 to 100 people employed with this combination of Silver City and Diamond Construction and Bjerke Architects. And it's HR is a challenge. It's trying to be able to look at each individual and their family and their personal issues they may have. Some days we're grouchy and some days we're happy, and the ups and downs of that whole experience in life, combined with trying to get production out, take care of your kids, raise a family, and all the pressures at home can really cause some issues with productivities at times. And I think as leadership and as people in the field, we need to be respectful of what all those other pressures are. And at the same time, it drives you crazy at times when people don't call in and tell you they're going to be gone or sick or the kid's out or whatever. It's developing that communication and that trust and also that support. And I think that's a real tough balance to take and find in any business. And I don't like the word boss, I guess, because leadership is about the only person you get to lead is yourself. And the rest of it is that individual has to choose to follow your direction or want to work with you or be part of the team. And it's important that we recognize our limitations as leaders and being able to take and really develop the emotional intelligence is what I call it, but it's being able to work with people and help them grow and challenge them and make sure they feel challenged and enjoy your job every day. Not every day. There's days I hate my job almost every day. But yeah, it's if you don't enjoy your job and you're doing it 8 to 10 to 12 hours a day, you got to change your profession. You got to change to something that you really do enjoy, and that's the approach that we've had with all of our teammates too. Is when there's no real passion or desire, it's like, yeah, it's time to we'll help you find something that will really work for you a lot better. I think that those areas and in a tough client, somebody that's just a jerk, sometimes can be a real challenge for any of us. And I think the biggest thing that we can recognize is you're in charge of how you react to that jerk, and you're in charge of controlling yourself. And the only person that can do that is interior to you and your brain. And you need to be in a comfortable position where you can ease out of that situation where you've got somebody yelling and screaming and calling you 4-letter words, whatever. You're in charge of your reaction, and it better be calm and cool and collected. And if it's not going to, and you can't get him down or her down, you need to say, well, I'll come back and talk to you later. But those are tough situations, especially when you have the desire for ultimate quality and satisfaction for your clients. And you got to stay in tune with that, no matter whether you're one of our teammates or myself. That's what we demand for our clients. So I guess that's about the worst case scenario.
Yeah. Dean, I just have to say, you have a lot of words of wisdom and advice. I might have to ask you to come back and just share. Can keep on sharing some just work training. Helping our students even just learn even more skills as well. So I do really appreciate all that you're saying. I have a question from Jeannie here for you. So for those who want to make a career in the construction field lasting multiple decades, would you recommend, or is it best to get a degree, whether associate degree or beyond, or just jump right into the workforce and get on the job training?
I think that all has to do with the personality of the individual that's involved. I will share with everybody in the whole wide world that I would never be able to have started the business that I started or accomplish what I've accomplished without a real solid engineering background. And I took a bunch of accounting courses and business courses also in college that just gave me a great boost up. But I'm not telling you need to take and have all of that stuff at one time. If you have the gumption and the desire to take and learn it, either in adult classes or read books online or whatever. There's college degrees only means you should have an ability to take and work through problems and issues and accomplish that. I don't propose it to anybody that doesn't enjoy learning or learning from books or learning from professors. If you rather do it wrong a few times and learn from experiences, I think that's okay too. That's the best lessons in the world. I hate to repeat what I just did wrong, but it's a personal trait. Go ahead.
For another comment for Jeannie, architects are licensed, and so you do need a degree from an accredited architectural school, and then you sit for a test. So if you want the architecture route, you do need that college degree behind you.
Yeah, and in the construction fields, it will give you, I will share, this is my personal opinion, but I think that if you have a college degree or an associate's degree of some type as a starting point, and it's in project management, or you take some technical courses for even building a house, like in some cases, I think even the College of Technology or U of M here in town has. It's like, all of that stuff helps give you a boost, and I think it's now, in my case, summers I spent doing some of that stuff. I got that experience by getting a job in the summertime. All of those things help build what you can experience. No, most of us as young people, or when I was younger, I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. And all of the stuff I did and tried and got to experience in construction helped get me in that direction. So I knew I loved doing it. But I think that's really important for every high school student and college students too, is try lots of different things. If you have an interest in it, I think the word that needs magical is passion. Passion, passion, passion. If you have passion for something, whether it's even being an artist, and you might not make a lot of money at first, you might only make it when you're 90 or dead, I don't know. But if you have a passion for it and it doesn't pay, then that's your avocation, and do an 8-hour job as in something that you at least enjoy. Don't waste your time doing something you can't stand.
I agree.
That's nuts. I'm not saying that I didn't do stuff like coding 1,000 different things all the same time, all the way through as a part-time job during going through college, or that I didn't flip burgers for years and years in my mother's restaurant, or that I didn't do all those things, because I did. I loved each of it. Helped build what I learned about people, and also about what I didn't want to do was turn burgers at 40. I guarantee you that. So it's like, but those are good skills. It's good to know how to do those. The Navy was great for me to be in. I stayed in reserves for 35 years because I loved it too. I loved going to Pearl Harbor in the middle of winter, doing 2 weeks act Dutra over there with a team of about 12 guys doing warehousing work for the Navy. And it was like we'd knock their socks off. Yeah.
Oh, looks like we lost Susan there.
Yeah, I see these popped off. I don't think it was on purpose. Let's put it down.
Oh, well, no worries. I imagine it's probably be about time to jump off anyways. But Dean, I really appreciate your time here. Hoping Susan can jump back on so we can.
You betcha.
Share.
I'd like to make one significant thing about what, if there was one thing I would ask you all to do, or at least consider doing, is the same thing I've paid my grandchildren to read the book and tell me about it when we get done. And 4 out of 6 have done it. And the book is entitled The 7 Habits of Highly Effective Teens. It's Covey is the author. It was the son of the guy that wrote the adult version. Some people feel like, oh, why would I read the kids book? I actually enjoyed the kids book, the teen book, better than I did the other book. It's got great examples of different things. And my teenage grandchildren have done extremely well with it. It's not religious based necessarily. It's based on just good things in life and the long-term effect. And teen years are tough on kids, on adults raising teens. But I think it's extremely the best thing that you could ever do to help yourself understand that the only person that really is in charge of where you go in life is yourself. Me, I'm in charge. I don't care what my folks did to me. I don't care what society did to me. I don't care how poor I started. I don't care how I had a drunk alcoholic father. All of those things just, they don't define you. You have to take and get past that and use that as an excuse and get to the point where I'm proactive in myself and I want to accomplish this thing. And you can go out and do all that stuff. Some people in life never have the opportunity to have a parent like I did that told me I could accomplish anything I wanted to. And I believed them. And I went out and I did those things. But there's a lot of people in life that never have that opportunity to get told that. And I think that's bad. If anybody is in those situations, there's mentors at school. I had teachers that told me that. I had fellow students tell me that. I had friends. And if you don't have friends that do that, you need to change friends. I mean, that get support people, get around joyful people, excited people, people that want to do better, people that have integrity. And those are the things that are of value. But this book is awesome. So I bought the entire, I think it was the freshman class I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, I bought the whole class that book. I'm going to just put it out there. If you haven't got a parent or a significant other or an allowance that allows you to buy the book, you send me an email, and Derek's got my email. I'll buy you a book. It'll be here at Diamond Construction. I'm serious. It's unbelievable, even what my grandchildren got to me. And I haven't shared it with their parents because it was just private between me and them. But it's really neat stuff. It's good stuff.
Well, thank you, Dean.
I really wanted to be a great leader for all the years in the Navy and everything else. I got out of the active service, and I still was looking for something that really helped me be a great leader. And that book did more for me than all the leadership books around. So, anyway, sales pitch.
That's great. Well, I will, ask anybody. You can either comment or you can send me an email as well. And I can, if you want that book, I'll contact Dean. And Susan, I'm glad that you could join us back. So we're just kind of closing out. You must have hit a wrong button or something.
I did.
Oh, no worries. Well, I appreciate your time today. Susan, did you have any last minute advice or thoughts that you wanted to share?
I did have a quick thought. One of the things that I think is important when you are thinking about becoming an architect is really be aware and observe your surroundings and think about what part of a building makes you feel good and what part you feel like could have been improved upon, and that's the kind of awareness I think that's built into an architect's brain, is that you're all the time looking for ways that something went together, something that makes you just feel good. Just be aware that it's more than just drawing. It's an entire building process, and you have a key role to play. And Jeannie, anytime you want to stop in, please do.
Well, thank you so much. I know for any students watching, if you are curious about these careers, please reach out to me. Or make sure to comment if you're watching the replay of this. We'll be able to get your answers, your questions answered. I'll be able to ask Susan and Dean as well. So please reach out with questions. We're here to help. Thank you again for joining us.
Thank you, Derek.
We'll talk to you guys later.
Great. Thanks, Derek.